Oh, nearly gets me every time, the Wired Unplugged bit, because I think that's what I'm supposed to say. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wired Unplugged episode 2 with me, Jake Kulkowski, and my valiant and graceful co-host, Aaron.
Hello, Jake. Hello. How are you today?
I'm very good, man. I'm very, very, very good. It's been a while, although it's kind of not. We did record an episode, the lost episode we will refer it to, which was like, the thing is, no one's going to believe us or care, but you actually correctly guessed that Klonoa was going to be revealed at the Nintendo Switch Direct.
I did. I searched into my crystal ball.
Yep.
And I just saw Klonoa's face staring back, and there we are. No one's going to believe it. However, I think that episode is going to
surface
come into existence
eventually.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. For mysterious reasons.
And we'll just happen to say that every time there's a Nintendo Direct and be like, yeah, I predicted that. The episode just came out
that was recorded weeks ago. Trust me. So in this week's episode, we are joined by Rosie from Safe in Our World, who will tell us all about Safe in Our World, a very, very, very prominent UK games charity.
Isn't Rosie wonderful?
Honestly, my first time meeting her, actually, and I feel like I could have had a conversation with her every day for the rest of my life after that. Yeah. Good old Natter that. So more on that in just a little bit. But you know how it is by now, baby. It's time for a segment. It's time for a jingle. Let's get into this.
Wired Propaganda.
Oh, you've got to love it.
You know, we made a joke in the first episode about Gloria Gaynor. This is old news to us now because it's been a couple of weeks.
The people won't know.
The people won't know, Aaron, right? Will they? This is what I mean.
Gloria Gaynor was in a box and everything.
Yeah, Gloria Gaynor tweeted us with some like laughing emojis, love hearts. And I know you probably still don't believe us about the Klonoa thing, and now you're probably doubting us in general about everything, but I'm telling you right now, Gloria Gaynor tweeted the podcast's very first episode. We climbed the ranks. We're in the top 40 gaming podcasts out here in Europe, and Gloria Gaynor tweeted us. We had, that's why we took 2 days off, just to recover from that great news. But, whoa. So just wanted to mention...
I haven't recovered yet. I'm still in shock and awe.
Well, look, thank you, Gloria Gaynor. If you want to be a guest... get in touch. For the general listener, you can also get in touch at unplugged@wiredproductions.com, or you can help shape the podcast. Send us some emails, some topics, some questions, anything you'd like to ask us, you can do that. And if you're Gloria Gaynor's management, the answer is no budget. So, Aaron, what's been going on in the world of Wired?
I'm going to turn this on you because, let's be honest, just so people know that this is in some sort of real time, we just had the latest hit from Stormzy Land.
Hit right through my window.
You seem debrisless. It's all fixed. You're all sorted.
Yeah. So for those not aware of my life, I live in North Wales, and it's a very stormy area. None more so than when there's 3 storms back to back bangers from the storms. Dudley, Eunice, and Franklin, I think the combination was. So we got hit by some pretty heavy storms, and my roof basically caved in, and my ceiling started to leak, and then a giant fence panel smashed into my office window, which is just out of sight for the visual listener, and they call them viewers, I think. So luckily the storms have
subsided. You've got a draft.
Well, we're all good. So sort of the PVC between the panes has been completely repaired, so that's what was going on. So thank everyone at Wired gave me such well wishes, and for the legions of Wired Unplugged fans, that's where we've been last week, sort of recovering, battening down the hatches. So,
everyone came over to your house to help you fix it up. It was...
Yeah, exactly. Sausage rolls, everything, brilliant. A real team effort. So so that happened. Probably some. That happened, and then an episode was delayed, which you will hear in a week or two's time. So that's it from me. But I think there's some more exciting news that's quite Wired-centric.
There is some exciting news. So, Martha is Dead is out. This is where sound effects put my eyes going. Oh my god! Woo! Yeah. So, Martha is Dead is a game that we've been working on for LKA, and we've been getting their backs over time. Have been working on for quite a long time now. It's been given the time and love, and it is now out into the world for people to experience in their own way. Now, to be very upfront about this, we are recording this before launch day, and the reviews land on launch day. So it's going to be.
I can't believe it went so well.
It was so good. But Martha is Dead is it weaves a very interesting tale, shall we say. It's a very emotionally heavy game, and it explores some uncomfortable topics. But it's going to... The best way I'll put this is I think everyone's going to have a very unique experience with the game. I remember the first time I played the game a long, long time ago, and there is a scene early on in the game where, spoiler warning, Martha is dead, and there's a scene the following day where, and it's such a small moment. There's a scene where Martha is at rest in the family home as per tradition. And you can light the candles, make it a cozy, respectful atmosphere. Right. And then, you can, if you want, kneel down, do the sign of the cross, or you can choose not to. And that's... I don't want to go too deep into my own life here, but that one moment, which, it's a very small thing, resonated with me. If you think about the family in Martha is Dead, very traditional Italian family, religious.
Yeah.
And I remember my nan, who is no longer with us, right? She was an incredibly religious woman, Irish, of course, and to the point that in the later years of her life, she would actively go out, trying to understand other religions as well. She was all very interested in religion, how everything was. How everything is phrased and what you can take and what everyone takes from each other. Unfortunately, the end of her life, she had dementia and stuff. But through it all, she never lost her faith. Yeah. And I am getting to a point with this. And I remember, after she passed away, I was fearful that any thought in her final days, weeks, was that she may have felt that she was abandoned, by religion, something that she has put her heart and soul in. And just to go back, this moment of, doing the cross next to Martha, who's in the house or not, it was just a moment that it made me cast my mind back to that moment of my own personal frustrations or fears in that scenario of saying, okay, do I carry along with this, or am I frustrated and angry and I've lost a bit of, a bit of faith, a bit of hope, or I don't know. The game is just littered with moments that will resonate with people in different ways based on their own life experiences, and they're not necessarily. I can't say that they're designed to be that way, but it's a game that doesn't drag you by your hand and say you should feel like this, you should feel like that. It is a game of moments that you can experience, and you'll have your own personal take, thoughts, feelings, connections to those. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of the way that the story and game is designed as well. That it allows you to reflect and connect in different ways that I didn't expect. I didn't expect to be having this conversation with you on, Wired Unplugged. But
Yeah,
it's just one of the things,
there we go. Yeah, exactly. Well,
it's one of the things that really stood out to me early on. The first time I ever played the build, and I came across that one moment.
yeah,
Because I think it's let's not shy away from this. I think some things that have been in the limelight about Martha recently, maybe pertaining to the mature content in the game. And we've always been very upfront in outreach when we're taking to shows and communications around the game that this is a heavy game, and it does feature graphic scenes and comfortable nature elements and so on. But I think what is very interesting and important that people remember is that those things have to be said up front because it's our duty of care and it's respect to the story that is trying to be told. But one thing I hope people do is enjoy the experience as a whole. Things can be taken and shown out of context, and content exists within the game, but it all has a purpose throughout the story. And it's something I've been thinking about recently as well is Martha is Dead. It's a psychological thriller.
right.
It tells the tale of twin sisters. Martha is dead at the start of the game, and you play as Julia. So Julia is dealing with the loss of her sister, her twin sister, lived with all of life, and is dealing with that personal bereavement. There is also the closing times of the war as well, which is coming to an end, which has been horrific. And she is they jointly, but she specifically as well, is the daughter to a German father and an Italian mother. So the pressures of war in that context as well has a different meaning. But then there is also mysterious folklore and dark tales around that are being weaved throughout the game, and all those things kind of merge together, and it keeps you hypothesizing throughout the experience. And I have to give massive credit to Luca and LKA here, because it can be really hard to convey something to someone and to people that may not have had a certain experience or do not see the world in the same way. And how do you represent something that people can't relate to or haven't experienced themselves? And we have Rosie on from Safe in Our World, and when Safe in Our World was actually launched, one of the games that launched alongside it was a game called Fractured Minds, which was made by an incredible game designer. She's absolutely wonderful. She won the BAFTA Young Game Designer Award for this game. And again, this was they're very different games, by the way, but Emily's challenge when making Fractured Minds was, this is how I perceive the world. This is how I deal with what is going on in my head. How do I represent that to other people? How do I get them to relate and understand in some way through an interactive medium, how to gel that together and make people understand, some semblance or representation of how they could feel on any given day. And this got me thinking a lot about a film I enjoyed, and it's not related to Martha is Dead at all, but something that I found very profound was how the story in The Joker was told.
Oh yeah.
You as an audience go through that entire movie seeing a perspective to represent the state of mind of someone, only to find out that all was not as it seemed, all was not as you thought. Your sympathy for that character quickly does a U-turn, and it's very bold storytelling. And I think, there's not a lot that is out there that tries and shows things from another side and represents something that everyone doesn't have direct immediate access to.
Absolutely. And you know, I think the key thing to remember here that there can be a world where there's nuance and a world where the storyteller doesn't shy away from a tough topic and they can coexist and often in the same story. So, you know, just because there's a specific topic that's being handled and you know, often is the case with sort of thrillers and horrors, they can be topics that are maybe a little bit outside of the mundane realities of, you know, making coffee and playing a couple of video games or something like that. It doesn't mean that they, you know, are necessarily advocating for anything like that. So, you know, just because we've not said it outright, Martha is Dead is a game that would probably quite comfortably fall into the genre of horror with mature themes, like you did mention. Just for anyone listening, this isn't a sort of like Overcooked. Don't get the family round. Yeah, but yeah, I think that certainly from what I've played, which you know, very fortunate enough to have played it for a good couple of weeks in advance. It's handling something in a very interesting way, and I'm a big horror fan. So, you know, I'm supposed to be Switzerland here as the host, but I've got to say I'm quite into it. So Martha's Dead's at the time you're listening to this, available right now on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, and Series family, and Microsoft's Windows. So
there is one thing I want to add as well.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
Listeners, viewers, if you would like to learn a bit more about the development of Martha's Dead and really get into the headspace of the game and the team, we mentioned this on the last show, which is the Lost show, which will be the next show perhaps, which makes no sense.
It'll make sense in time, like a Tarantino
it will make sense
movie.
in time.
Yeah.
But there is a series that has been released on YouTube, which is called Martha Unearthed, and that is a really nice deep dive into the development of the game, going into how the story is told, the attention to detail on the locations that have been recreated in real life, and it's really a really interesting watch, and I do recommend it.
Yeah, Martha Uncovered's part
Obviously.
of the Wired Live stable of content, which if you are listening to Wired Unplugged on podcast services, yeah, go and check out Wired Live on YouTube. You can there's a whole feast of content there, and from actual developers and that. So yeah, we'll see if we can lasso them into it to joining us on one of these as well, and we'll give them the post-mortem. That kind of makes sense. Uncovered, post-mortem. I'm staying with the Dead theme here, and I'm trying.
I see what you did.
So yeah, that's a big one. You know, I feel like it was our first episode. We had a couple of weeks off, and I feel like we've done 2 game launches back to back. After you mentioned, you know, with the COVID delays, there was a fair amount of time, and then suddenly we just hit after hit, baby. So yeah, Wired Propaganda, a very very good one here. Martha said finally out in the wild, and yeah, again, if you've got any thoughts, let us know. It's unplugged@wiredproductions.com. That is the Ministry of Propaganda closing its offices for the day. Thank you very much, Aaron. Begin.
News we stole from Google.
Now, news we stole from Google, other search engines are available. It's just a stark reminder to us all that companies outside Wired do exist. So, and sometimes they make the news. So, Aaron, every week you bring to me some news stories, read them to me, and I go, So, what's on my plate today?
Jake, you'll be excited to know, and I'm excited that Street Fighter 6 has been announced. We are getting a brand new Street Fighter game. It's a very exciting time. The whole conceit of the game, no gameplay has been shown yet. There's going to be a reveal slightly later in the year for a bit more information on that. But there was a nice trailer of Ryu fighting someone. A lot of focus placed on Ryu, his bulge. But we won't go into that.
I was going to say toes, because that was also there as well. Yeah, typical gamers. Yeah,
I didn't see the toe stuff.
No, right.
But
there's a lot. They're very detailed. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
It appears that Street Fighter has always been very popular within the esports community, right? In terms of fighting games and so on. And I think it's fair to say, and there's been acknowledged that they're looking to lean more into that, and that kind of becomes apparent actually from the surprising new logo, which they revealed, which is a stark contrast departure from logos have passed. And it does very much look like it could belong happily on an esports stars jersey. However, there's no, it's not. It's never as simple as that, though. There's been some interesting feedback on the logo that they may have paid $80 for the logo. And it was available via Adobe via a quick search. And yeah, you see this, right?
No, I hadn't seen this, and I'll break the immersion for everyone. I'm on Google right now.
There he is.
And
he's stealing it from Google.
I can't, but yeah, it's a modified version. It looks like
it's modified. Yeah. There's the hexagon around is
an attempt was made.
Some angles adjusted and so on. And it's very weird, right? Street Fighter 6, very big news. This is a very interesting thing that comes out, but
it's all bulges and clip art. Yeah,
but I can see that. If you're watching this, I just had to put my hand in my head because I understand that can be seen as a cheap move if true for such a beloved franchise. However, it's a logo. Nothing from the game has been shown yet.
Just wait for the Hadoukens to come in. Yeah,
there are bigger things in the world right now to be upset about.
Like Ryu's bulge.
Let's be honest. Like Ryu's bulge and his glistening toes.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he sweats now apparently. So
yeah, that's the. I know there was. Yeah, I was okay. So yeah. Perhaps one of the most intriguing things for me, certainly the build up to this announcement, was Capcom had a sort of countdown, which was very generic. In a sense that there was no sort of indication there that this was Street Fighter related. I don't know how they could have done that, like somebody slowly punching their way through a car. But like
I like that.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. I could work in PR. So I think that essentially, like, I'm a big Resident Evil fan, so I was thinking, is this going to be a little something? No, it was Street Fighter, and I thought it feels like Street Fighter 5 was like recently, but no, it wasn't. It was 6 years ago. So, and like you say, the fighting game community, they're a law unto themselves. There's all this and that netcode and that, but huge news for them, and I'm happy because it's like a whole different world. So that's very, very interesting. And the logo thing, I didn't know, and so hopefully you listening didn't know either, because that is funny. So very good, Aaron. Very good. What's next?
So, Sonic Movie 3 has just been announced. Sonic Movie 2 isn't out yet, Jake.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, have I missed something? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, they assume that the movie is going to be a massive hit. So, that's a good sign that there's like, we're doing a third one. It's going to be greenlit now, away to the races. But that's not all. Yeah. That is not all. And let's be honest, the first Sonic movie, I actually enjoyed.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I was not expecting. Yep. I was not expecting that.
I'm with you there. Yep.
I enjoyed it. But alongside Sonic Movie 3 as an announcement, there's also been a live-action TV series announced, which is predominantly going to focus on Knuckles, played by Idris Elba, which is going to be on Paramount Plus as well, and that's going to look to explore the Sonic movie franchise world even further.
Well, look, I don't know. Sonic fans are, very
fast.
They're very fast moving. Blue. Yeah. No. There's one of my favorite games ever was Sonic Adventure Battle 2 on the GameCube, and the I don't know if you pronounce this right. I've never actually said it out loud, but I think it's like the Chow Garden.
The Chow Garden,
right?
Yeah.
So
Chow, KO. Chow,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Yeah, KO. It's like Street Fighter again. So, I know like the sort of larger cast of characters like Rouge the Bat and whatever, and like I don't know,
Big the Cat,
Shadow, and then there's like some like metal one or whatever. Amy Rose, of course, yeah.
Amy, yeah.
Sonichi, maybe not. But I'll tell you what, that's a reference for anyone who got that. You're welcome, all right? So, look, I've got to say, how much do I care about an Amy Rose spin-off? Well, it's not for me to say, but clearly there's a demand for it. It's mad that it's getting its own show, to be honest. But I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to watching the new film. I love that. I love that orchestral version of the Green Hill Zone theme. That they did.
Right at the start.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that got me.
good.
That's what I was hooked
It got
on.
me in the feels. I watched
Same.
it seriously.
Same.
You know, I was away doing wedding stuff, and I got to see my family at the same time.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to put the Sonic movie on because my nieces and nephews are around.
Yeah.
And the film opened with that Green Hill thing, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's got me again!"
I
was like, "It's so great."
I took my at the time 8-year-old daughter to watch it, and I was like,
Yeah.
"You don't understand, kiddo." Oh yeah, yeah. That's like one of my favorite video game bits of music ever.
It's like it's on par with the cycle of life.
It's
At the start of The Lion
yeah.
King, it's like if you're going to start a film with an emotional song, it's either this Sonic remix thing.
Okay.
or the
Yeah.
Cycle of Life.
Like Green Hills. Yeah. Answers on a postcard. Yeah, we don't talk about Bruno. It's got competition. So
No.
very very interesting. Sonic. It continues to. I don't know. Power
fast.
spin. Yeah, go fast. Yeah, exactly. Okay, this thing's got legs. So what's next? Sorry.
This thing's got legs. Rio's got toes. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
exactly. Yeah.
What is next, indeed? So, Pokemon Day has been announced by Pokemon Japan to be the 27th of this month. So, the day after this goes live. Exciting. So, there is no more news besides that there will be news. And they're going to be revealing things every day up until Pokemon Day to do with some titles and so on.
Right.
But what would you like to see?
Well, I'm not trying to, annoy people, but I'm interested in Pokemon Sleep. I think that's what we need.
It's been a while.
I think that's what this world needs. It needs to gamify sleep. A dear friend of mine is Pokemon obsessed and doesn't sleep very well because they're staying up late playing Final Fantasy and that. They need this in their life. So I know who have to. I honestly, if it can do for sleep what Pokemon Go did for walking, I think the world would be a happier place. And that is honestly the most dad answer you can give, isn't it? But sleep.
Saying that though, sleep I choose you. But have you also seen that there is the Pokemon toothbrushing?
Yes,
well?
This is what this out the box thinking from Pokemon is a constant source of confusion for me. But I just roll with it. Pokemon Cafe Mix, yeah, okay, cool, let's go. Like, why not? That Pokemon Unite, right?
Yeah.
Not into MOBAs, not that into Pokemon, to be honest. But I was smashing that. About 40 hours a week I played that the first week it came out. So like I'm always up for that. There's a lot of interest. Like Pokemon's good at getting me from like tepid to interested in 2 trailers. Like I bought that, however you pronounce it, Arceus or whatever.
Arceus.
That's it.
Pokemon Legends Arceus. Yeah.
I bought that for my daughter, and she's been on that non-stop. And it's just like I've been watching her play it, and it's just like they got it. So because of that alone, and the fact that there might be this Pokemon Sleep and Unite was a hit, I am interested. But what about you, Aaron? Are you into any of this?
I too picked up Pokemon Legends Arceus for me. I don't have a daughter, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's for me. It still hasn't been unwrapped yet, but I know I'm going to get around to it. And this kind of falls on something that we might talk about in a bit. But I had to make absolute sure that I got something done before a special game releases, another special game releases. And Jake, I finished Dark Souls for the first time.
I'm so happy we get to share our moment with the world. This is the happiest day of my life. Okay, great. How did you feel about that? By the way, if anyone not listening, I'm a huge Dark Souls fan. Like, done them all 100%. It's like, sadly, I think I'm so into it that it's a personality trait. You know what I mean? So, how do you feel about this?
So I did all the DLC as well. How do I feel about it is confused. I'm very proud. I'm so happy that I put the effort in and did it. Yeah. But
at what cost?
Well, I'm confused because the game ends and then you just restart a new game plus. The last battle, similar to when you fought Sif, was very surprising in terms of the arena and the music that accompanies it. And when I'm doing Gwyn, I'm like, am I meant to be killing you? Oh, we're the bad guys, Jeremy.
Yeah, exactly. The plonky sad piano.
And so it's taken me 3 years to finish it, I haven't been playing it hardcore for 3 years. It's been in dribs and drabs, in and out. But I wanted to make sure I got it done. I originally played it when it was originally released.
Yeah.
And something didn't click for me. But I think what made my path to Dark Souls more accessible was the fact that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order,
Right.
I played that, and that has Souls-like elements. But also controversially as well, not controversially, but also interestingly as well, what I kind of thought was how I tackled Breath of the Wild. Because, you know, as soon as you get off that Great Plateau, there are things there that can kill you in one hit. And it's the strategy about how do you get around, how can I use everything to make sure, you know, I'm doing the right things, learning attacks and so on. So, you know, there was a path that got me there, and surprisingly Zelda was involved. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy that it got done, and I can tick it off. And a sad part of me just wants to dive in and play it again from the start now that I know what I know and work out different routes.
That's how it gets you. That's how it gets you.
I've been sucked in.
Exactly. Just when you thought you were, that's it. You know, sometimes I played it again over Christmas, probably for like the 11th time, and I'm like, I think I'll go Pyromancer this time because I don't do that enough. And you know, it's kind of like, you know, that the meme of starting Skyrim and he always ends up as a stealth archer. It's like that. I'm always like, yes, but then I see a giant sword and I'm like, I'll just pick up the Zweihander. But yeah, Dark Souls.
Welcome to the Dark Souls podcast.
Exactly.
Back to Pokemon.
Yeah.
What I would like to see in short and sweet is new DLC for Pokemon Snap, new Pokemon Snap.
Great, yeah, love that. Again, you know.
Let's see if this comes true.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, trust us on the Klonoa thing. Sources, trust me, bro. But yeah,
it so happened.
It's Pokemon Day, very, very, very exciting. So yeah, especially because it just continues to grow and change and innovate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that's something quite decent. Thank you very much, Aaron. Anything else?
There is one thing, and it's something that we'll pick up on quickly because time has run away from us talking about Dark Souls.
And we got to speak to Rosie from Safe in Our World,
and she's Rosie. She's waiting.
She's a star of the show. Like, yeah, exactly. She's been texting me like, "Where are you? What is this about Dark Souls?"
She's starting playing now. Something that interesting that was announced was that Nintendo have announced that they're going to close the Wii U and 3DS eShop services in March 2023. This has caused a bit of an uproar because there are a lot of games on those services that people won't be able to purchase again. Currently, as it stands, if you own those games on those systems, you'll still be able to re-download what you've purchased.
I see. Yeah.
And there is still a year between now and then to pick up the games that you think, I really want to play this. However, the conversation has kind of turned sour under the illusion of preservation, perhaps. And, you know, video game preservation is a big topic, you know, now in particular, but also it has been for a while, right? But the problem is that people are saying, oh, Nintendo are doing this, so I'm just going to pirate all the stuff. I'm going to hack my 3DS. I'm going to hack my Wii U and just download things onto hard drives. And it's like, it's not. I suppose my question to you is it right to pirate for preservation, Jake?
Well, you know, it's a difficult one. I remember speaking to somebody who owns a large video game collection, and by that I mean a museum, and they were talking about this. They were talking about the inevitability of, like, there's this thing called, and I need to make sure for anybody listening, disc rot. There's an S in there. Disc rot is something that happens to CD-ROMs over time, and so things are getting preserved digitally a lot more often these days. And then, what happens when you'd like to share that game with somebody and it becomes completely? I'll give you a real example. A couple of friends of mine wanted to play Battle for Middle-earth 2, the Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth 2, which was
great game.
It was a great game, and a friend of mine still has it in physical copy. So, unfortunately, without downloading it online on some random forum, right, I have to play it by myself. So, so questions like that, like you know, when does it become? Because nobody, it's not like you're taking any potential money off somebody because the game isn't available. You have no option. So I suppose it becomes a bit of, this is something this has inspired me, Aaron. I'm going to see if we can bring in an expert on this very topic in a future episode. Because actually, I think that it's a really interesting conversation to have. And actually, I don't think we're doing it justice by chucking it in here before we blind everybody with the brilliance of Rosie Taylor from Saving Our World. So I think the question is, can we get somebody to talk to us about this? And the answer is, I'll try, Aaron. Okay.
I believe in you. I like if you can make that happen. I think it'd be genuinely a good chat. So.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So cool. We're deciding the content of the show live on air for everyone to hear. So great. I told you guys you were going to shape the show. So cool. So thank you very much for providing information, and sorry to Google for the theft. Cool. So it's Deals for Mules. This is the section of the show which we use as a little bit of a precursor to our amazing interview segment, where in this episode we'll be speaking to charity officer for Saving Our World, Rosie Taylor, who coincidentally also has a podcast. But before that, let's talk about who's bought what.
Deals for meals, deals for meals, deals for meals, deals for meals.
Deals for meals, of course, referring to the amount of chicken mayos you'll be able to buy for the acquisition cost of your company. Aaron, what's in and out this week?
Nothing, Jake. But in a surprise curveball, you have bought Elden Ring.
Yeah, Jake Kulkowski buys Elden Ring.
Not the IP. Not the IP.
No, that would be interesting. Do you know
where is your excitement at this moment?
My excitement is actually in a very weird place, and I don't want to sound too cerebral or existential for anybody, but I'm numb to it now. I am so close to Elden Ring that I don't feel anything. Like, I feel like it's a coping mechanism because, I'll say this. The last time I got this excited about a game was Fable 2, and it affected my sleep. I was a little 12-year-old boy trying to go sleep, and I couldn't. Wow. So, look, do you know what it is? It doesn't help. All of the journalists have tried to be really, conservative about it and be like, oh, well. And still, their verdict is, whatever you think this game is, it's better. How am I supposed to sleep with that in my head? So that's where I'm at. Thank you very much for listening.
Pokemon sleep.
This is it. Nintendo can't work soon enough. So look, that's where I'm at. Right, to be completely honest, I'm at this weird stage. It's almost denial. Do you know what I mean? So we'll see. So yeah. So check that next week when I've got Elden Ring there. But what I will say is, I booked a day off.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to
Candles, everything.
Well, yeah, it's one of them. I've already got the food in and all that and the beers and so yeah, I'm ready.
You are ready.
I am so ready. Do you know what I mean? I've really built up for weeks and weeks. I'm very, very lucky to have a very understandable wife who, although she doesn't really care about video games, like she's played about 3 in her life: Persona 5, Final Fantasy 8, and the new Pokemon Snap. Which
great games. It's Final Fantasy 8, the best one as well. So
yeah. She was saying she's looking forward to Elden Ring because Dark Souls is just a lot of grey and steps. Not the band, but there's a lot of
imagine.
Yeah, that would be so. So she's looking forward to seeing an open world suffrage. So
a bit of colour.
Yes, exactly.
A nice golden tree.
Exactly. So yeah, very, very excited for that. But yeah, not as excited as I was to find that Saving Our World's charity officer Rosie Taylor. Because we don't have a jingle for this bit, do we?
That's
so
great.
This is me really trying. Yeah, I spoke to Rosie all about Saving Our World. So I just want to go into a sort of very quick anecdote here. Saving Our World, as far as I was concerned, was a very, very long-established video game mental health charity formed in the UK. And for those who aren't quite aware, in my day job, I do work in the video games world, and I'm very lucky and fortunate, same as Aaron, to get to travel to sort of conventions and things like that. And I've seen Saving Our World here, there, and everywhere. They're the forefront of my mind, which is a really fantastic position to be in as a charity. Well, much to my amusement, did I learn that they are actually fairly new. And they've just done such an incredible job of focusing in on putting mental health discussion at the forefront of the game space that they've all of a sudden become almost like a household name. If you're talking about mental health in the video game space, they've had an amazing amount of support from a huge array of people. So I just wanted to make that very, very clear that I really did go into this learning a lot about Safe and Wild, who I thought had been around. They must have been around for ages because of the way that they've established themselves. But, well, you'll learn all about that. So Rosie's an absolute sweetheart and has her own podcast, which is actually the Safe and Wild podcast, by the way. And you can check it out. I think it's everywhere where a good podcast
I think it's
should be.
everywhere.
It is everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you want to hear more of Rosie, that's exactly where to do it. And, yeah, without further ado, here's a little interview. Let's go.
Wired Unplugged.
Rosie, hello. Very nice to see you again. We're on the interview segment.
Being because what happened?
Just we got caught up with a lot of things. So this is the first time we've recorded this interview, and me and Aaron have just been talking a lot. We've done a really big intro, bigging you up and talking about how nice you are. Actually, you don't have the context of this because this is all like put together in post. But just trust me. But just in your own words, why don't you just tell the people at home a little bit about you and what it is that you do?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Rosie. I am a podcast person as well, which is always fun to be on a podcast with a fellow podcaster.
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of video games and mental health, which plays very much into my role that I do for a living at Safe and Wild, which encompasses both of those things. So it's pretty, it's pretty good, pretty convenient. As you probably can tell, I like plants. I like all things green. Yeah, see?
That was new, isn't it? That's new.
Blue bottles.
Yeah. For the audio listeners, Rosie's in a greenhouse right now. And I sort of pointed to my pretend plant in the sort of sad offering. I don't know. I'm just trialing it. Maybe I'll get a real one. Maybe after she can give me some advice. But horticultural spin-off podcast maybe. But yeah, so yeah, you're at Safe in Our World.
I am. Yes, I am. So I am the way that me and Sarah always describe it is that she does the boring stuff and I do the fun stuff. So I get to do the website, I get to do the podcast, I get social media and Discord and all of that good stuff. And I'm, out of both of us, play more games than her, so she's not as interested in the game side of things, which is great because then I get to do all of the games related bits too. So yeah, that's kind of my role summed up. Very, very neat little.
In the very first episode of Wired Unplugged, well, it was like the prequel episode. It was like episode 0. We had the founders of Wired on, and there's 3 of them, and I there was a conversation between 2 of them, exactly the same sort of thing. One of them thought that they had the good deal, and the other one does the boring stuff.
I'd be interested to know who is who.
Yeah, well, you can find out. Yeah, by just checking it out, it's in there. So yeah, Safe in Our World. There is a sort of. It is connected in a sort of the Wired metaverse. There is a connection. There is a crossover. This is the podcast crossover episode, but what's the story?
So the trustees of Safe in Our World are also members of Wired, which is why it crosses over massively, believe it or not. And Leo is our current chair of the charity, and Neil and Gareth are trustees, the founding trustees as well. So it adds in quite nicely. I just realised Gareth's not in Wired anymore, but
Neil, you
let's cut that out. Yeah. Sorry, I'm stupid. But that's essentially how it started, and those were the 3 founding trustees, and they started having a discussion back in like 2017 about the need for firstly they wanted to raise money for a mental health charity, and they started thinking about what they could do, and then they kind of realized that there isn't really a mental health charity that's looking after the global games industry. And that's kind of what started the idea of Safe in Our World, is that, well, there's not one right now, so let's make one and see what happens. And then, 2 years later, on World Mental Health Day of 2019. It officially launched. And then a year after that, Sarah and I were the first employees to join. So it's been like a really nice but quick quite journey for the charity. And it's been lovely to see it grow.
Well, that's one of the things that's the big. I mentioned this in the previous segment when I was talking to Aaron, who's also a Safe Now World hero. I saw that and got very competitive. Saw his face on a website, and I was like, "Okay, I'll fix this." So by getting myself on there, not by taking him off, Aaron, in case you're listening, which hopefully you are. So, I hope so. It's your podcast, mate. So Safe Now World it's got this great recognizable logo, and the branding's so on point for it. And it's one of them things, like, I guess all good ideas, they say, oh, something feels like, I feel like we've known each other forever, that sort of vibe. I feel like Safe is like, I've only been in the games industry like a relatively short time, like since 2019, but I feel like Safe's always been there, like, and it's just, I think it's because it's at the forefront of my mind, because it's done so well to position itself with the right people and the right people to sort of broadcast the message to the games industry and to gamers. So, some of the the associated parties like are just absolutely spot on. You got some fantastic streamers on board, for example, and in my day job that's who I work with. So it was almost a bit of a surprise to learn. I was like, oh, Safe's not actually been, and that made it a lot more. So it's been a meteoric rise. To be honest, I'll say it for you, to be honest, yeah. So the mission really, like you mentioned, it's about fostering sort of positive mental well-being, specifically, really. Well, maybe not specifically, but it's definitely designed with gamers and the games industry in mind. So obviously, all charities are very decent causes. What's one of the things that you think stands out the most about being a charity that's so closely related to gamers specifically? Does it change how you approach people? Does it change the messaging? How's that?
I think it makes it really easy for me because I game myself and I've found solace in mental health through gaming as well. So I resonate very much with the mission, and that makes it so much more natural for me to talk about with people. And what I found is when I talk about it with other people and they resonate in the same way, it's so easy to just have a conversation about it because they're like, yes, I'm on board. And I think that also kind of builds into what you were saying earlier about people think that it's been going longer than it has because they see what we're about and they're like, yeah, obviously, like that should be there. But it's not like it doesn't really cross your mind as something that's only just been set up, really, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing about, because I think, and this is, everybody listening, I'm assuming is going to completely understand what it is that we're talking about. But video games, escapism is a sort of fantastic way to escape into a wondrous world and stories and things like that. So the idea of that being so closely related to mental well-being is just, to me, just feels like it's been there the whole time. And personally speaking, of course, whether it's a sort of just a small, an irksome day, it's been a tough day, I just want to sit in front of the PlayStation or the Switch or something like that and have a go with some games. But a lot of, anecdotally, so many of my friends who had some really tough times, it's they remember the sort of the video games that they were playing to get themselves through it and things like that. Do you have any stories or connected to a specific game? I'm really interested to hear this because everyone's got a game, whether it's one that's really meaningful, or maybe it could be the most random game. I remember playing this.
I have a few games.
Oh, okay. I'd love to hear about that.
Oh, but never gone because you were going to say something.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, and I mean absolutely no disrespect at all to Sega, but they put out this game called like Viking or something. Maybe it's Vikings back in like the Xbox 360 days. It's probably, it's not a Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's put it that way. But like overall, I don't think I would have remembered much about it. But I remember going through a really sad time and playing that, and that for some reason it was just the idea of finishing that game. By the time I was out the other side of it, I felt a lot better. So I always associate the most random game with a tough time. So I've got a really fond memory, and I've got really good sentiment towards this game. So I just love that that you can have these connections to that. Because if I spoke to quite a lot of other people about this, they might say this game, Jake, is objectively it's just a game, like, but
Yeah.
so
It's so
I'd love
much
to hear
more than that, though,
yeah,
isn't it? I
exactly.
feel like I quantify my life and how old I am by what I was playing at the time all the time. Like I think about this more and more, and the more I'm on like games industry Twitter specifically, it like spawns more memories for me that I'd forgotten about. So the other day actually no, it was on a podcast, and then I found out the answer from Twitter because we were talking about like weird old PC games that like you had when you were a kid and you never really knew what they were or when they went. They're probably like a demo disc in a magazine or something. And they were always just really bizarre. And I was talking about one that was, I think it was called something like DK Encyclopedia, and it was about like the human body. It was really odd.
But it was very interactive.
It was an interactive science game almost, I guess, for PC.
Yeah. You know what? I think I know what you're on about.
And it had a skull on the front.
Yeah, like these like edutainment type games were like really like there was like a Magic School Bus game, I think, in my school library, and this. So yeah, I know what you mean. Weird.
It's weird, isn't it? And I remember being back at that age to be like sat on the PC at home in my old house, and it's just like really weird to think about. So yeah, I do that a lot, and I think the main games for me that come to mind when I'm associating them with like big emotional moments or important times in my life are The Last of Us, which I adore. It's the game that got me back into gaming, I guess, during just before my GCSEs, I think. It was a while ago, but I watched a playthrough of PewDiePie playing it and was like, that looked like such a cool game. Oh my God. And then I absolutely fell in love with the story. And then that urged me to buy a PS4 and a PS3 even and play it myself. And so that's kind of what started it. And then like ever since then, I just remember playing like Kingdom in on my friend's Xbox, I think at the time during university, when we were so stressed and it was the only thing that we could do that went and took our minds off it, and we just sit and watch each other play Kingdom for like 3 hours at a time.
Kingdom being Raw Fury's like meditative side scrolling,
it's delightful.
Yeah, fantastic game. You're like a king on a horse going around controlling your kingdom, and they've made some big changes. Did you and your friend ever revisit it now that it's 2-player?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I haven't played it as 2-player though, which makes me really sad, but I will because I adore that game. I saw someone called Susie on Twitter who knitted or crocheted the little evil people from I can't remember what they're called, but it was so cool.
That's something really, really nice, and fun enough. I have a similar story. Well, my sister-in-law, who doesn't really play games much, one Christmas we played from like 7 p.m. to like midnight in the front room with everyone around us. We just played Kingdom split screen, and that was only a couple of years ago. And that's another game that it helps carve some really nice memories. So yeah, University and Kingdom for you is one of them. Anything else that really stands out?
Yeah, I remember significantly, like I was having a terrible time, and me and my housemates thought it would be really funny to play. Oh my gosh, what's that horror game called? Is it Outlast? No, maybe.
Outlast is a horror game.
It could be Outlast.
Amnesia?
I think it was Outlast.
Okay.
I'll remember like 2 hours in advance and I'll let you know. But it was terrifying. I can't, because I was so scared. I feel like I've deliberately forgotten some of the details, but we were all sat on the bed playing it, absolutely terrified because none of us are good at horror games, and two of my housemates weren't really gamers, so they were just watching me and Ellie, who was my Kingdom housemate, play. And I just remember something jump scared us so much that we all jumped back and the entire base of the bed just snapped. I don't know why. I was just like, oh my God. And I just remember that so well. Because then having to explain to the landlord that we broke the bed playing Outlast, it just sounded weird.
Yeah. You'll be Googling it. It's quite it's quite interesting that the two of the games that you mentioned are games that I wouldn't say were quite light on content. So sort of Outlast and The Last of Us. And I suppose that's probably testament to, the fact that subject matter doesn't really have, in fact, well, I think there's a whole discussion to be had about sort of the cathartic nature of like why people watch horror films, or that there's loads of people who are into like true crime and things like that, despite them actually not being murderers. So,
I love those topics of conversation though. It's funny you say that actually about watching horror films, because I can't remember what I was watching recently, but one of the characters in there was like, "Oh, I'm watching a horror film because it makes me on edge to the point where I'm not thinking about what I was worried about before.
Yeah,
I'm just focused on what's next that's scary." And so it's like actually really good for taking your mind off things.
yeah, it's presenting something in the here and now, isn't it? I suppose, rather than lingering
Yeah.
elsewhere. Safe in Our World is unique to me, and I'm sure there's probably lots of other great examples, but certainly one of the things I found to be pretty unique about Safe is that there's a lot of collaboration with other charity, and there's a sort of now you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, Rosie, because I'm probably using like really incorrect layman's terms, but it feels like a bit of a referral system. So like like you don't sort of pose to be experts in a chosen sort of topic or whatever, and it's about sort of helping people understand a little bit about the support available. I suppose. Would you like to just sort of give a much better, hopefully, in that explanation of what it is that Safe does for people who would get in touch with them? Perhaps, obviously, it's all case by case basis, right? But
Yeah, the main point I always want to get across is that we are not clinicians, and we can't act as personal support for people, because one, we're not trained, we're not professionals, but two, we're such a small team, like it would never work. And potentially in the future that's something we would look at, but for now we are signposting to resources such as the Samaritans and things like that. So one of the most powerful things for me is being able to highlight companies and charities that are doing really good work and not reinvent the wheel with that, and instead focus on something that hasn't been done yet. So one of the main points that we did on that was the community manager course that we delivered for free, thanks to some funding from the Jingle Jam in 2020. And we were able to train up nearly 200 community managers in the games industry about how to deal with and appropriately support their communities in mental health, which is something that's just not really been done before. So that's kind of the crux, is that we try to not reinvent the wheel with what's already there, because there's no point in doing that. It's a waste of resources. So instead, focusing on things that haven't really been done in a lot of detail is super important to us. And through that, we can also spread awareness about people doing great things.
Absolutely. And I think that there's a sort of, there is a big, learning process for a lot of people still, especially in the games industry, and being a content creator, for example. When you're just for anyone who's completely unaware of what a community manager is, perhaps that tends to be somebody who's in charge of a game publisher, brand sort of community, including Discord, which obviously chat rooms where people spend a lot of time and they talk about a lot of things, and it ends up being a case, doesn't it, Rosie, more often than not, that the conversations can become quite severe, serious conversations, not just pictures of cats and whatever.
No, people develop parasocial relationships with people who they've never met before, which is really scary, I think, for people who don't, like, they're not, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, and I won't do a very good job of explaining it, but
I think the crucial thing, would you agree, is probably that it's not something that they perhaps, and maybe more over time now, but certainly when these roles were popping up, were sort of anticipating to be confronted with, much like being how being a streamer, you do have a community there too. It's the same sort of thing. There's a couple of streamers I know who will often say, like, sometimes it's very difficult because you do feel a little bit like you're playing like a pseudo therapist, because somebody in my chat will come in with some sadness and bring it through the chat, and what do you say? So it's about that sort of awareness, is it?
It is. It's also about teaching streamers and content creators and people in those sorts of public facing spaces how to set boundaries with your audience, because it can be really difficult, like you say, and especially with people who don't maybe deal with confrontation on a regular basis, or don't like having to discourage people, because one thing for me is that I would never want to discourage someone from talking about mental health unless it was then being detrimental to other people, in which case you'd have to set boundaries around that, because it's just not fair. You can't be a personal therapist. And even if you are professional, you can't be someone's personal support, because that's not the right setting. and you don't know who this person is, so it's really difficult. And so it's kind of being able to show creators and how to deal with that, but also know how to signpost people to the right resources that will actually get them help and show them in the right place, instead of panicking and being like, I don't know what to do. I'll just kind of like engage because I feel bad. I think everyone's kind of done that before, and it can be really detrimental to your own mental health if you're constantly taking on other people's burdens that you're not trained to do. So
Yeah, no, absolutely, a completely valid point. And I think question that I had, and I'm sure most people aware of this, will maybe make the assumption, whether it's correct or not. You tell me, but a lot of gamers spend a lot of time in front of screens and things like that, and thus quite a lot of time at home too. Safe being a relatively new charity, I think it's quite hard to gauge this question. But I am curious, how has the pandemic affected what it is that you do and what Safe do?
for the most part, I joined during the pandemic, so I can't really speak from a before point of view, but also we didn't have staff before the pandemic, so it's also kind of hard to judge that question. But from my experience, we've only seen growth within it, because so many more people are being exposed and are aware of what we're doing, resonate with that message, and want to get involved or contribute somehow or support us, which is so encouraging. I think it's very evident from a lot of media outlets that people have a certain stigma towards games specifically in terms of screen time, because you really don't see the same level of stigma around TV or film or anything like that. So it's quite difficult to then get over that stigma, which is always a challenge. And I think, too much of anything isn't great for you. So you just have to be aware of that. But I've just seen more and more people being like, oh my gosh, I totally understand why you guys are doing this. I think it's really important. We've seen communities grow. We've seen people come into our community and just say like, I didn't realize you guys were here. You're like a beacon of light in the games industry, which is amazing to hear. And people are just becoming more comfortable to be able to talk about mental health in general with their communities and with their friends, like games as well. Because that's the beauty of games, I think, is it provides something like a medium for you to be able to tackle these really difficult, sometimes, conversations that you wouldn't be able to do by yourself, maybe. So it's a really nice way to kind of get into that and feel more comfortable in talking about something when there's something else going on as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's still something that's being discovered to the delight of many people playing games, that you have like maybe your sort of casual experiences, which can be in their own right pretty relieving for people's mental health, but like whether it's Candy Crush or Call of Duty, there seems to be a sort of you got your entry level sort of games, and then I noticed one of the things that Safe does, which is a very interesting thing, is to sort of spotlight perhaps some games that might be of interest, certainly in the space, right? So what can you tell me about sort of game spotlight or the related games? How does it work?
Yeah, I see it in two different ways, are related games and apps. And in one way, I see it as games that offer a really accurate representation of mental health, or a not negative representation of it, like it's not damaging in a sense. Because often you see a lot of the time where people will throw in characters, for example, that struggle with mental illness and make them as villains,
villainize them. Yeah,
exactly. That villainize was the word I was looking for. Make them as villains doesn't quite sound as good, but no, you get what I mean. And it's very difficult to see sometimes accurate representations of what people who actually struggle with mental illness are like. So that's kind of one of the directions that I wanted to go with the related games and apps, and that's definitely how it started. But there's also things like Calm and Dalio and lots of like little small apps or games that are really mindful and based around creating dynamics that make the player feel relaxed and get into flow, which is something that I've heard so many people talk about. Is it's not necessarily the content of the game or well, I guess just the content. It's not necessarily all about that, but it's about how it changes your brain to think about the way that it's processing information in a way. So like Tetris, for example, has been seen on a lot of different studies being able to help patients with PTSD because it puts their brain in a certain way that I think it was saying that they're able to process information in a healthier way, which is fascinating because you just would never picture that happening together. And so many people have said like Tetris effect connected. It's the combination of music and puzzle and being able to like focus on something really well that it's just like magic. I don't know how to explain it. So that's kind of one side of it. But ultimately what I want people to take away from the games and apps section is that everyone is unique and everyone's relationship with games is unique. And so just because something's not on the website as a related game or app that we think, oh, this might be a good suggestion for you, it doesn't mean that that's the right or wrong list. Like there is no right or wrong in this. I think you just have to examine your own relationship with games and what makes you feel good when you're playing and you know what doesn't perhaps, and what makes you think, especially if you're not that aware of mental health. If you're playing a game that you get so much perspective on, you know, how someone else might feel, I think that's super valuable. And having games as a medium to be able to experience that is wonderful. So there's lots of different kind of ways you could go, I guess, with the games list. But ultimately, I want people to be able to think about the games they're playing and how it makes them feel and how different everyone is.
Yeah, well, I think that there's obviously so many games out there at the moment that sometimes you might see a game's thumbnail and that's about the end of your relationship with that game. So, you know, for anyone listening, you might have played 100 games a year, but it's definitely worth checking out Safe's website, which, you know, I think wherever you're listening or watching this, you'll be able to access pretty easily. Check out the games and app section because there's quite a lot of games. There's a couple of games on there that I wasn't actually aware were so related to like deeper meanings and stuff like that that perhaps I would have overlooked. I checked out Rhyme because of this. I thought, oh, the game looked pretty, but I didn't realize there was something a little bit more, you know, mindful to it. And I had to go, and I was really impressed. So, you know, even if you've got a good, strong feeling about where you stand on it, it's worth having a look.
Yeah, no, I think if I remember correctly with Rhyme, isn't like each level kind of meant to be representative of a stage of grief? Yeah,
that's it. So this is it. And it's just, you've got to overcome this whole, I don't know, there's a mystery surrounding it, right? That involves, I don't know, a spirit companion or anything like that. And it's very, very straightforward gameplay mechanics. But I guess this narrative hook that I kind of just took for granted the game was just looking pretty, and it was a puzzle-based game, which is one sort of way that I know a lot of people, like you just mentioned Tetris, that puzzle mechanic's very, very relaxing to certain people. But yeah, actually there was a sort of allegorical quality to it, I suppose. So whilst you're on the Safe in Our World website, you also can check out the Safe in Our World podcast, where there might be a familiar face. It would be remiss, Rosie, to not talk about the Safe in Our World podcast. So honourable rival of the Wired Unplugged podcast, let's say that.
I'm honoured to be put in that category. Thank you.
Tell us what people could come to expect if they checked out an episode or 2 or 3.
Yeah, well, hopefully 2 or 3, but
Not 4, right?
4 is too far. That's overstepping the mark. The podcast is kind of aimed at discussing mental health in a lot of different perspectives through having different guests on board. And so, you know, we've had game developers, we've had content creators and fundraisers, industry people. Like there's so many different people that have been involved with it, which is amazing because you get so many different perspectives and different oh gosh, what's the word? When you're oh my god, brain. Why am I struggling so much with this one? They're very good at what they do.
Yeah. Different areas of expertise are tackled.
Experts, that's the one. Jesus. I run a podcast. I don't know why you would listen to it if you like got a preview of me right now. I'm struggling in the in the face of competition.
It's because I called you a rival. That's what I mean. It's you
I know,
rascaled.
and now I'm like, oh my god, I'm sweating, I'm anxious, I'm a rival, oh my gosh. But no, we talked to a bunch of different people about their own mental health experiences and you know, the good work that's going on in the industry and in games communities as well. So it's just a very, again, similarly laid back conversation with someone else about mental health in different contexts. And that's the podcast.
Sounds really nice. There's a lot there. Some people listening will be familiar with Safe, and some people won't. Some people might have been listening and be really interested in understanding in what capacity they can get involved and how they can get involved. So, Rosie, to close us out, if people are interested in learning more, where can they find out, and what sort of capacity could people help in?
The website is the best place to go to get all the information about what we do and how you can get involved. We always encourage people to come on board as fundraisers and champions of the charity. So, for example, champions, we kind of invented the champions following a really lovely but kind of overwhelming expressions of interest in our ambassador program. And so our champions became a stepping stone to that, where we're able to get people on board and let them know what we're doing and how they can get involved with things and, you know, trial out games and give feedback to developers, or, you know, understand what Safe in Our World is doing before everyone else knows it, so they can help in any way that they can. We let people know about initiatives like the bundle before it's going live, and you know, just encourage people to get involved however they can, because everyone can bring something different to the table, and it's lovely to see people offer their support in so many different ways. Like, we've had graphic designers, we've had writers, we've had other podcasters. Like, it's lovely. So if you've got an idea that you want to support us, just come and ask us. You can get in touch with us via our website, and I'm sure it would be nice to chat, but they are the main ways that you can get involved.
Oh, Rosie, thank you very much. That will cap us off nicely, I think. And do you know what? 30 minutes on the dot that was.
Wired Unplugged.
That's one, Rosie.
That was Rosie there, schooling me on everything, really. Just gave me a different perspective of life, really. It's very, very, very interesting to have a chat with her. And I always love it when I meet somebody who likes the Binding of Isaac as much as me. Because I think, it was a really great conversation. So we've got a couple of other interesting guests lined up. We don't actually know the running order of where they're going to be, but you know, we're gonna try and set up some video game preservation chatter in the weeks to come. So thank you very much for listening to the second episode. What's that?
I'm interrupting your outro here, Jay.
No, it's okay.
But we also have the Lost episode that will make its debut, where we prove that Klonoa was predicted between us.
Absolutely. So yeah, much like the room of requirement, I think you, dear listener / viewer, have to will it into existence. But the Lost episode is here somewhere amongst the rubble, the storm debris, and we'll be able to provide that. But the difference between this sign off and last sign off is that you can help shape the podcast by emailing in any feedback or anything like that, any questions, any topics that you want to raise, simply by emailing unplugged, that's unplugged, at wiredproductions.com. We just want to thank you for all the support. The first episode and the prequel episode went down a storm, but it sounds like a storm thing, man. Yeah, you know what I mean? No, it did very, very well. We managed to climb to, I think it was like 37 in the charts, and anything under top 40, you know, it's good. Like, you know, the radio told you that when you were a kid. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Aaron, for gracing me with your presence once more. And let's see what the Lords bring to us next week. And thanks everybody, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Wired Unplugged.